Plenty to get through. We're going to be joined by Scott Davis very soon. He'll be with us in part 3 to reflect on Hakin United winning the West Wales Cup. But of course, at the weekend, the weather intervened somewhat, so it meant that cricket was difficult. Just to call out a couple of things that did happen in Division 1, because we have the Harrison Allen final, last year's final, being played this bank holiday weekend. The weather looks better. It's Narberth against Neyland. And actually, Fraser, both sides did manage to get a bit of time in the middle. Narberth were playing Loreni, and Narberth actually were 74 for 2 before the game was abandoned. Jordan Howell, 35 not out at the time. Lewis Huff, the skipper, 25 not out. Neyland as well were batting first at Cresselly, which of course is where the Harrison Allen final will be played at the weekend. Neyland were 64 for 3 when the rain intervened. Paul Murray was 37 and Sean Hannon made 14. So for those two, as frustrating as it was, at least they'll say we did get a bit of time in the middle and a few players got some runs, Fraser.
Yeah, it's been a worthwhile few weeks in terms of build-up for both. Neyland have obviously got some time at Cresselly, like you said there. So, some time on that ground, on that pitch and what have you, batting on it especially. And Narberth, Neyland were hammered by Cresselly in the Dougie Morris in the first round a couple of nights previously. It was on a Thursday night, whereas Narberth came through their first round tie. Narberth actually play again in the Dougie Morris quarterfinals, I believe, tomorrow night or certainly on Wednesday. So, both have had a bit of, it's actually 20 overs to Dougie, where the Harrison Allen's 22, but they've had the short formats of games to get under their belts, which is important for both, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be pleased they managed to get that in. Any thoughts? I mean, we previewed this Harrison Allen final, it seems like many times, Fraser. Predictions, let's just say what we've already said. Favourites.
Same what I've said.
Let's see what happens on the day,
Yeah, same as the previous 3 times, but the weather is set fair. So let's just hope.
Yeah, okay. Elsewhere, I just wanted to mention a couple of bits. Whitland will be glad that it rained because they were playing Carew, and Whitland were 38 for 7 in Division 1. Some remarkable bowling figures actually for Carew. Sean Whitfield, who's already had a mention, but for his football ability, he was 2 wickets for no runs. Yori Hicks claimed 3 for 17. And I imagine Whitland were rather glad that the rain did come down, Fraser, in that game.
Yeah, Carew being frustrated there. A lot of teams were being rushing to get through on Saturday. Haverfordwest actually did in Division 2. They didn't hang around in knocking down Langham's total. They were rapid. But yeah, it just came down, I think, too much. It was intermittent then during the afternoon. So you had to get your job done very quickly if you're going to finish Saturday, for sure.
You did. Just mention that game. Yeah, you're right. There was that game finished in Division 2. Haverfordwest played Langham. I mean, they do say this, the sun always shines in Langham. How on earth they managed to get a whole game in? Langham were 141 for 9. Chris Phillips took 4 wickets for Haverfordwest, but Haverfordwest knocked those off, didn't they? 145 for 1. Chris Phillips 71 and Johnny White 56. How on earth did Langham survive the weather at the weekend?
I imagine they played through a bit of rain luck, and I don't mind that as long as it doesn't get stupid, to be honest. So it was ironic because we had glorious weather, didn't we, on the Friday night for the plate final, and then obviously the cup final was deceived by rain. But yeah, it was just a rainy day. But yeah, I doubt Langham was dry, put it that way.
Just one that caught my eye in Division 6 as well. This is how to do it when it rains. Kilgetty's second team, they were all out for 17 against Whitland's third team. Ben Rodier 3 for 8. So they were all out for 17. Whitland thirds knocked that off very quickly. 18 for 1. They won that game by 9 wickets. If you want a quick finish, that's the way to do it. Just bowl a team out for 17.
You're not coming off if you're chasing 18.
You're not coming out. No, absolutely chucking it down. You stay out there. Rugby, of course, was wrapping up the season really in Pembrokeshire this weekend with 2 finals. And we had some really good reaction in the first hour. So if you haven't been able to listen to the first hour of the show, do catch up on the website, purewestradio.com. Go to the catch up button. You were there on Friday night, Phrase, for what was a really good game between Milford and Neyland. That was the Pembrokeshire Knockout Cup plate final, wasn't it? And Milford won it.
It was an enthralling game, actually, and it was almost sad in a way, Ben. If you didn't know about the build-up to the competition, if you didn't know what had gone before, you'd look at it, and Saturday, to be fair, Aberaeron putting up a real fight against Tenby United, and you think, 2 enthralling finals, 2 good crowds, seesaw affairs, both teams desperate to win this on Friday, a derby rivalry. And you'd think, what an occasion, what a competition. it's so hard to embrace the competition overall because of what's gone before, of course, and all the walkovers and how so few games are played. But if you're looking at it in isolation on Friday night, an excellent game. And, I think I mentioned it in the report on Pembrokeshire Sport. Neyland, I think, will be kicking themselves. They came out firing in the first half, as they tend to do against Milford. And after the break, they opened up a 13-point lead. And whether it was the notion of 2 decades, without beating Milford, which is hanging over them, or whether it was just poor game management from their stop-start season. But they really didn't manage the game well when 13 points up. They let Milford right back into it, and they actually tightened up, I thought, too early. They were doing pick-and-go drives, and there was still 10, 12 minutes left, and they were just a point ahead. And I think they shot themselves in the foot in that respect. They'll be. It was great at Milford, the way they came back. They did storm back, and they played with great intensity in the last 20 minutes. But if I was an Neyland player or coach from that, I'd be very, very disappointed with how it panned out.
Okay, so yeah, well done, Milford, on that. And as I say, really good reaction in the first hour of the show. And then on Saturday, we heard from John Evans, didn't we, on the show last week, head of rugby at Tenby United RFC. He said his team would be taking the final seriously, despite, as you say, the mixed build-up for both sides, walkover victories and the like. You can only turn up and do what you do. Tenby played Aberaeron. They beat them 28-18. And I think Tenby will be pleased to end what has at times been a slightly frustrating season. And John kind of alluded to that, didn't he? They lost 6 games in the league, which was probably more than they were expecting in terms of the high standards they set.
Yeah, speaking of Hugh Baker in the first hour, didn't we? And he was man of the match actually on Saturday, and he said the same. He said, there's no hiding the way they stuttered towards the end of that title race, and obviously going out of the Division 1 Cup as well, and they were targeting a trip all the way there. There was disappointment. So to end it with silver, I was just relieved for 2 things, actually, Ben. I was relieved, of course, the game was played and we had a good crowd for it after the nonsense that went on last year with Aberystwyth. And I was pleased for Aberaeron, the way they came down, they travelled, they fully committed to it. They have been promoted, but they've still been playing a league behind Tenby this season. They pushed them all the way. It made it an exciting game, made it a competitive final, and that's what we needed. Moving forward, I think it'll always be a Pembrokeshire Cup and Plate because, the Pembrokeshire District Rugby Union is really the last link they've got to the club since it became WRU leagues and it became nationalised. And you look at those 2 finals on Friday and Saturday, and you think there is hope for it moving forward. There should be. They were played in the manner that finals should be played. You've just have to question if there can be any solutions. We're having the same debates every year. We can't hide the fact Tenby didn't play a game to get to the final. Aberaeron played once in the summer. You looked at the Plate final. Milford lost their first round in the Cup game in August, went into the Plate, no fault of their own. I think they had 2 walkovers then through the quarters and semis straight into the final. Neyland did have to play actually a semi-final, but neither of the Cup semi-finals were played. It did make it farcical. The build-up rounds have been farcical. There's no denying that. And I don't know what the answer is anymore, but there have been so many solutions, different suggestions, so much tinkering. And the fact remains that there's no jeopardy for clubs. There can't be jeopardy for clubs because it's not a WRU competition, really. You can't hold them to ransom, so to speak. And clubs who don't think they can win a game or don't fancy the fixture don't fulfill it. That's the long and short of it. And, we've had 2 credible finals, but can we call them 2 credible competitions? I'm not sure we can, sadly.
But well done to the winners, because all you can do is turn up and put on. And both sides, winners and losers in those finals, actually sounded like they did, and they made it competitive. So, let's see what the future holds for that. A word for Narberth. We got reaction from their outgoing coach, Ricky Guest, and Lloyd Phillips. Spoke to Keight. Lloyd Phillips will be taken over at the Lewis Lloyd ground next season. In the end, Fraser, a big win at Brecon, 50 points to 5. And it was looking a bit tight at one point for Narberth. And we were looking at the fixtures thinking this could be a very difficult end to the season. But in the end, they finished 7 points clear of Cardiff Met, who go down, actually bunched in by not many points. If you look at Newbridge on 59, Llangennec 55, Llanelli Wanderers 53, then Narberth 52. So it is quite tight. The margins are fine, and a good end to the season in the end for the Otters.
Yeah, so you can look at it in 2 ways. Ben, they were 2 wins away from being top 6. At the same time, they were maybe 2 defeats away from being in the bottom 2. But yeah, you're right. They finished the season very well. The pressure was off, obviously, but you didn't want them having to go to Brecon trying to get something. So that pressure is off, and they did finish with a flourish, and it does put, you know, a nicer slant on the table. There's a bit more daylight, and they stayed up, which was obviously the goal. Fresh coaching staff coming in next year, new team manager in Clive James as well, I believe. So it'll be interesting now to see how the summer develops. Will new players come in? Will they target new recruits and so on? But you're right, in the end, a good finish to the season for them. They stood up and delivered when it mattered, didn't they?
They did, and finishing with that big win with a flourish was a good result. One team that didn't finish with the flourish was the Wales women in the Six Nations. I think we'll just pause on that, and I'll come back to that in the final part, Fraser, because we do have Scott Davis, the Haking manager, standing by. So I think we'll finish with that Six Nations campaign. We'll take a moment and we'll talk to Scott, because he's going to be joining us to tell us all about how it felt for Haking United to win a second consecutive West Wales Cup. So we'll be back in a few moments on Pure West Sport for the final part of tonight's show.
Pure West Sport Show, sponsored by Eaton Evans and Morris.